I was halfway through my second glass of wine when Rachel leaned across the white linen tablecloth, smiled sweetly, and said, "Must be nice showing up empty-handed again. How does it feel being completely useless?" There was a flicker of laughter around the table. My uncle gave a dry chuckle. Rachel's husband smirked without looking up from his steak, and my mother, God help her, pretended to be fascinated by the butter dish. No one stopped her. No one said a word. I'm Irene. I'm 39, single, no kids. I work as a compliance officer at a retirement fund company in Austin. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. I've spent most of my adult life showing up. For people, for responsibilities, for emergencies that no one else wanted to handle. But apparently, none of that counts when you don't bring a showy birthday gift to your father's 70th. We were at a fancy Italian place in the warehouse district. One of those places with candles floating in glasses and waiters who call you miss, no matter how tired your eyes look. My dad was at the head of the table, beaming like a senator, and Rachel, my younger sister, was playing MC. That night, she wore a bright yellow wrap dress like a spotlight and told the story of her big year for the third time. How her podcast got picked up by a wellness brand. How she was expanding into video. How exhausting it was to have fans recognize her at the farmer's market. The usual. And then, out of nowhere, that line. That little bomb, tossed with a sugar-coated sneer. How does it feel being completely useless? I don't even remember dropping my fork. I remember the metallic clang, the way it echoed. I remember the smell of marinara clinging to the candle smoke. I remember looking up and meeting her eyes, and realizing with this sort of horrifying clarity that she meant it. Not as a joke, not as a jab, as fact. The old me would have laughed it off, or said something dry like, "Wow, okay," or just disappeared inside herself for the rest of the night and cried on the drive home. But something in me broke clean down the middle, something that had been hanging on by threads for a long time. Because I wasn't empty-handed. Not really. I was the one who helped our parents keep their house when Rachel borrowed against it to fund her startup and defaulted. I was the one who quietly transferred $1,200 to Mom last month to cover her dental bill. I was the one who cleaned out my savings 2 years ago when Rachel's apartment flooded and she couldn't deal with landlords. I was the one who helped Dad through his post-surgery rehab while she was on a sabbatical in Sedona. But none of that counted, did it? Because I didn't post it on Instagram. Because I wasn't shiny. Because I didn't build a brand. I looked at her and I said just one thing. Quiet, calm, but loud enough to stop the room. How will it feel when the useless one walks away and everything you built falls apart? Rachel blinked. Someone coughed. Dad stiffened but didn't speak. And then I stood up. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just pushed my chair in and walked out, my heels clicking on the hardwood like a metronome. I didn't even grab my coat. I don't know how long I stood in that parking lot, shaking, staring at the red brake lights of passing cars, feeling this heat rise in me like I'd swallowed fire. I don't remember driving home. What I do remember is unlocking the safe in my bedroom and pulling out a manila envelope I hadn't touched in years. Inside were documents Rachel didn't know existed. Bank statements, property liens, copies of checks I'd written in silence. And a title transfer. One she signed 5 years ago in a panic, when her loan fell through and she needed someone to temporarily hold her podcast studio under their name to smooth it over with the investors. I was that someone. What she forgot was that she signed it over to me. Fully. Not temporarily. And I had kept every receipt. I sat down at my desk, lit only by the dull light of the desk lamp, and opened my laptop. The studio was still in my name. The building, the gear, the LLC. She never transferred it back. Never asked. Probably never even remembered. She thought I was just an older sister with a boring desk job and no opinions. She didn't realize I was the only reason she still had a business. But now I was considering what it would mean to stop being silent. Not out of revenge, out of necessity, out of survival. And what I did next. Well, let's just say Rachel wasn't the only one who could pull a surprise. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, listening to it click with every slow rotation like a metronome marking every second of my silence over the years. I kept thinking about the look on Rachel's face when I walked out of that restaurant. The flicker of confusion right before the smugness cracked. She had no idea what I meant. No clue. That's how invisible I'd become to her. At 7:02 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "You overreacted last night. It was supposed to be a celebration. Please don't make this bigger than it is." That was her way of saying, just take it. Just like always. Let it go. Be the bigger person. Be the quiet one. Be useful in silence. I got up, poured myself a cup of stale coffee from yesterday's pot, and sat at the kitchen table, flipping through the documents I'd pulled from the safe. 10 years of paper. 10 years of doing things Rachel didn't even remember I did. The receipts were stained with time, some barely legible now. But I knew every number by heart, every transfer, every signature. I wasn't trying to punish her with these records. I just wanted her to see me for once, to see what I gave up. I was 29 when she called crying because she was behind on rent for the warehouse she'd just turned into her creative studio. Said her landlord was threatening legal action. She made it sound like she was days away from launching something huge, that she just needed a little breathing room. I wired $8,000 that same night. Never told anyone, not even my boyfriend at the time. She said she'd pay me back after her first sponsorship deal. That was 7 years ago. The title transfer? That was a mess. Her investor backed out last minute. She needed someone with clean credit to hold the deed so the space wouldn't go to auction. She begged me to do it, just for 6 months. She sent the papers via DocuSign like it was some casual favor. I was scared. But she sounded scared too. And I trusted her. And I didn't just co-sign. I owned it now. She never asked for it back. She probably forgot she ever gave it to me. By 10 a.m., I'd made a decision. Not a loud one. Not the kind you post online. Just a quiet, deliberate shift. I logged into the banking app I used to manage the monthly payments I'd been making on her behalf. Studio utilities, a loan I co-signed. Auto transfers that had been running so long I'd stopped noticing the withdrawal alerts. I turned them off, one by one. No more electricity bills paid in the background. No more smoothing things over with her web designer who kept emailing me for invoices. No more covering her podcast hosting fees when she let the account lapse and panicked before a new episode dropped. She'd find out soon enough. But I wasn't doing this to hurt her. I was doing it because I finally saw what I'd let happen. I had built her a life support system, and she thought it was air. That night, I sat on the balcony with a blanket and a glass of wine and watched the sun go down over the city skyline. I felt something inside me settle. Not peace, exactly, but something close. The next morning, 6:44 a.m., I woke to 6 missed calls from Rachel. Then came the texts. "Hey, weird thing, our studio lights won't turn on? Did something happen with the utilities? Did you cancel the autopay? Why? Can you please just call me? What are you doing? Are you trying to ruin me?" I didn't respond. By lunchtime, she was calling from a different number. I blocked it. That evening, I got a voicemail from Mom, her voice shaking. "Rachel says you shut off her power. Is that true?" "Irene, this is not okay. She has a business to run." She has a business to run. That's what Mom said. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What happened between you two?" Not, "Why would you feel the need to do that?" Just protect the golden child. As always. I stood in my living room holding the phone like it was radioactive. The unfairness of it felt physical, like it was pressing against my ribs, crushing my lungs. I wanted to scream. But instead, I just stared at my bookshelf and at the blue accordion file tucked between cookbooks and tax folders, the one labeled Rachel, Studio 2018 to 2021. I pulled it out and flipped through the papers again, slower this time. Legal notices, payment stubs, the notarized title transfer form, My signature. Heron witnessed, dated, still valid. And then I found something I forgot was there. A letter. Typed. Short. Sent by Rachel's first investor, the one who bailed. To whom it may concern, I am formally withdrawing my investment based on financial instability and lack of oversight. I recommend Irene be considered for ownership due to her fiscal responsibility and professional background. My name. On a recommendation for full transfer. I read it twice. 3 times. She didn't forget she gave me the studio. She knew, and she let me think I was just holding it. That was the twist. She used me. And she knew it. Knew. By the time the lights went out at Rachel's studio, I'd already packed away the part of me that used to flinch every time she called me boring. It was quiet in my apartment. No phone calls, no texts. Just the hum of the fridge and the soft tap of rain against my balcony window. I remember sitting at my kitchen counter, watching the storm roll in, and feeling this strange calm settle over me. Like my body finally understood it didn't have to brace itself anymore. Then came the knock. I didn't have to look through the peephole. I knew it was her. Rachel's knock was always urgent. 3 fast, 2 slow, like the world owed her answers. I opened the door and there she was, rain-drenched, mascara streaking down her cheekbones like war paint. "Are you proud of yourself?" she hissed, pushing past me like it was still her house. "You cut the power. You cut the payments. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I closed the door behind her, leaned against it, and said nothing. She stood in the middle of my living room, dripping water onto my hardwood floor, shaking from either rage or cold, or both. "You're acting like a victim, Irene. But you've always been the one in control. You chose to help. No one forced you." That line cracked something in me that I didn't know was still fragile. "You're right," I said quietly. "No one forced me. I volunteered. And you used that. You took it and you twisted it into obligation." She scoffed. "You're not some martyr. You just like holding things over people. It's your thing, your sad little power move, but I'm not scared of you." I didn't raise my voice. I just walked over to my bookshelf, pulled down the blue accordion file again, and handed her the investor letter, the one she hoped I'd forgotten. Her name was on it. So was mine. She read it once. Then again. Her face turned ghost pale. "You knew," I said. "You knew what you signed. You knew I owned the studio. And you let me believe it was temporary. You let me hold it together while you ran around doing interviews and pretending it was all yours." "I didn't think you'd ever use it," she whispered. "I wasn't going to," I said. "But I also wasn't going to let you keep humiliating me." She folded the letter like it burned her fingers and dropped it on the coffee table. "You want the studio? Fine. Take it. You'll ruin it in 6 months. You don't have the vision. You never did." And then, for the first time in a decade, I laughed. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. It was the laugh of someone who'd been standing in fire for so long they forgot what it meant to feel cold. "I'm not taking anything from you," I said. "You already gave it to me." That night, she left in silence. No door slam. No dramatic exit. Just a small, stunned woman in a wet designer coat walking out into the storm. I thought that was it. I thought the worst was behind me. But 2 mornings later, I checked my email over coffee and found a message from Chase Business Banking. Subject line, "Urgent. Suspicious activity on Gilded Ledger account." The account tied to the studio, my studio, had been drained. $12,784. Wire transfer. Outgoing. Labeled as consulting fee. Sent 3:17 a.m. It was still under her login. I hadn't changed the credentials. And just like that, the calm was gone. She knew she was losing control. So she stole what she could on her way out. The moment I read the email, my throat dried up like I'd swallowed sand. $12,784. Gone. I read it again. And again. A wire transfer labeled consulting fee at 3:17 a.m. Rachel had waited until I let my guard down, until she saw the look on my face that night, the one that said I'm done, and realized there was no way back in. So she did what she always does. She grabbed what she could and ran. I sat frozen at my desk, my coffee turning cold beside me. It wasn't even the money. Not really. It was the violation. The nerve after everything. After pretending I was just some boring background character in her success story, she used my name and my business and my silence to get herself the applause. And now, when the curtain was finally falling, she reached behind the stage and stole from the only person who never stopped holding the damn ropes. I called the bank, froze the account, flagged the transaction. I had ownership documents. I had evidence. But none of that could undo the fact that I let this happen, that I trusted her access, that I believed somewhere deep down she wouldn't go this far. That was the last piece of the illusion finally crumbling. That afternoon, I changed every password, locked down every system, set up two-factor on every platform, even the podcast host she hadn't uploaded to in months. And then I did something I never thought I'd do. I logged into the LLC's official email, the one she hadn't touched in 2 years, and I wrote a message to our mailing list. Subject line: the truth behind the mic. I kept it short. Professional. Clear. No venom. Just facts. I explained there had been a leadership transition years ago, that I had remained a silent partner out of respect, but could no longer do so in good conscience. I outlined what I'd funded, what I'd salvaged, what I now owned, and that I was assuming full public control of the Gilded Ledger brand effective immediately. I hit send, and then I sat back and waited. It didn't take long. Rachel called 12 minutes later. I let it ring. Then her husband, then my mom. Voicemail after voicemail, like smoke rising from a house that was burning too fast to save. Mom's message nearly broke me. Honey, why would you do this? Why expose her like that? This could destroy her. And all I could think was, where was that energy when she was destroying me? I took the rest of the day off work and went to the lake. Just sat there. Watched geese argue over crusty pieces of bread near the boat launch. The water was gray. Still. But something in me had settled, like I was finally stepping into my own life after years of living under someone else's definition of family. That night, I got a DM on Instagram. I almost didn't open it. It was from a woman I didn't know. Her profile was private. Just a name, Marcy D. Her message said, "Hey, I don't know how to say this, but Rachel tried to sell me Gilded Ledger's audio library 3 weeks ago. Said she owned everything and could license out episodes. She wanted $10,000 up front. But something felt off. She said you were just the tech person. I'm sorry. I thought you should know." I stared at my screen like it had just turned to fire. She was selling the podcast before she even knew I was done with her. She was trying to cash out, before the dinner, before the meltdown, before I cut off the money. Everything she'd said that night, the smirk, the insult, the pretend surprise, it was a performance. She already knew the studio was gone. She just didn't think I'd have the spine to say it out loud. She never thought I'd burn the script she wrote for me. But now she was standing in ashes. I didn't go to the disciplinary hearing for Rachel, even though I was invited to speak. I didn't need to. The truth was loud enough without me there to echo it. The email from the licensing board came on a Thursday morning, just as I was watering the little basil plant on my windowsill. I almost deleted it, thinking it was another reminder or update. But the subject line made me stop. Decision regarding complaint number 2145, ethics violation, Gilded Ledger LLC. I opened it with hands that didn't tremble. Not anymore. They had completed their investigation. Based on the evidence I submitted, transaction records, the investor letter, the audio rights agreement with my name on it, they found Rachel guilty of misrepresentation, unauthorized sale of intellectual property, and breach of fiduciary duty. Her business license was suspended for 18 months. Her audio sponsor dropped her the next day. The platform removed the podcast. Just like that, her carefully curated world, built on stories, charm, and half-truths, collapsed under the weight of facts. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel something when I saw the posts. Her Instagram went private. Her last tweet was a cryptic line about betrayal and cancel culture. But no apology. No acknowledgement. Just silence and spin, the same as always. I guess the part of me that once hoped she'd text "I'm sorry" finally stopped checking. What I didn't expect was the letter from my mother. It came in a cream envelope, her handwriting still familiar after all these years, slanted and soft, like she always wrote mid-sigh. Inside was a single page. She said she didn't know the full extent of what I'd carried, that she'd let herself believe I was fine because I was always strong, that maybe that wasn't strength, it was exhaustion. She didn't defend Rachel. She didn't ask for anything. She just wrote, "I hope you find peace. I hope you remember who you were before all of us needed you." I cried harder than I had through any of it. Not out of forgiveness. Not yet. But because someone, finally, had seen me. That weekend, I took down the old studio sign from the front of the building. The screws had rusted, and I had to fight each one loose. It felt symbolic, and kind of messy, and completely right. I put up a new sign. Just my name. Irene Matthews Consulting, no podcast, no branding, no glitter. Just a quiet, solid start. On my own terms. The funny thing is, I never wanted revenge. I wanted relief. I wanted to be free of the guilt that came from saying no, the weight of everyone else's chaos pressing into my chest. I wanted my life back. And somewhere along the way, I got it. People still ask if I miss her, if I miss them. And the answer's complicated. I miss the version of family I thought we could have been. But I don't miss being invisible. Here's what I've learned. When you spend your life holding up someone else's spotlight, don't be surprised if they forget you were ever there in the dark. And when you finally walk away, don't expect applause. Expect silence. That's how you know it's real. If you've ever been the strong one, the quiet one, the background support to someone else's chaos, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. You're not alone. And if you want to stick around, maybe hit that subscribe button. I've got more stories where this one came from. But for now, thank you for listening. Really.